Good morning, everyone. Habari Gani. Apologies for being a few minutes late. I was looking at the wrong clock. And I was like, oh, I have a whole minute to get across this room and turn on the camera, except I did not. So today is, I love all of the Kwanzaa principles, but today is a particularly special one for me. It is Nia, purpose. So for those who are watching the replay or who just found this on the internet, my name is Njeri. This channel is Onyx Pages. It is a channel in which I read. Can you hear me? My microphone isn't plugged in. One moment. Please give me a sign of life. Let me know if you can hear me. You should be able to hear me. Okay, great. Thank you. Good morning, Regina Renee. Habari Gani. So yes, purpose is a big one for me. Good morning, Pat. So the Kwanzaa Reflect-A-Thon is an opportunity for us to come together as the bookish community and talk about the books that we've read this year, books that we've read generally that reflect the Kwanzaa principles. Now, the principle of Nia, let me just find its explanation and I'll put it in the chat. Nia is purpose, and it means to make our collective vocation the building and development of our community in order to restore our people to their traditional greatness. Okay, the principle is now in the chat and it's on screen. So of course, I'm going to start by talking a little bit about it. And while I do, if you are watching, and even if you're not, in the chats, if you're watching afterwards, if you're not watching live, please include in the comment section any reflections you have about Nia, the principle Nia. Okay, so let's go. First is to make. Do you have anybody in your life who, instead of saying have a great day, they say make it a great day? My cousin was the first person who did that with me, and he would end his conversations, not his conversations, but he would end his emails and his outgoing voicemail messages to end with make it a great day. And I really like that because it puts the onus on you to do the thing, right? It reminds us that great days don't just happen. I mean, I guess sometimes they do, but you have to either put effort into making something happen, or you have to put effort into receiving a good thing that happens, right? Because I'm sure that you can certainly remember a time in your life where when a good thing happened to you, but you just couldn't muster up happiness about it. So this Nia it's an action, right? It's intended to be an action. So to make our collective vocation. So again, all of the principles have an individual and a collective interpretation. Some of them are very specific, like the word collective is actually in them. So Nia is one of the ones where we see the word collective coming up. So to make our, meaning that, it's a possessive pronoun, plural, right? So it's our collective vocation. So it's not, again, similar to collective work and responsibility. The idea at Ujima, the idea here is that it's our job, and it's a job that we're supposed to do together, right? So it's not Njeri's job or Pat's job or Regina Renee's job on their own, but it's our job that we should be working on together, right? Meaning that we need to be We need to have a vision. We need to think about our strengths and how to bring those strengths to the surface, and how to enhance other people's strengths and encourage them to work from their strengths. And this is more than just a job. It's a vocation. It's a calling, right? So it is our collective calling. We're going to make it our collective calling. We're all going to choose that it is our collective calling to build and develop our communities. And so again, we see those twinned principles. You have to build it. So we have our builders, we have our initiators, but then we have our developers, right? So in other principles, we saw build and maintain. So we saw that in Ujamaa. But now we have building and developing our community, right? And when I think of the word developing, because I was born in a decade, I used to do film photography. And there was a time in my life when I was a member at a photography studio and we could use dark rooms, and I used to develop my own images. And I don't know if you've ever had the pleasure of watching pictures, like being in a dark room and watching pictures develop using developing liquid. But basically what's happening is you're literally like watching the picture come to the surface, and you can, depending on how you move the liquid inside the developing liquid, move the picture inside of the developing liquid, or how you hang it, you can have streaks or not, right? Good morning, Brittany. So for me, developing is also kind of like what you do when you're making a batter, right? You're looking at it, you're pouring some vanilla, you're pouring some eggs, you're whipping it or whisking it or folding it or whatever, right? But you're actively doing things to the product. Like it is a watchful, mindful, deliberate process, right? So if we take those ideas of developing, right, to build, but also to develop our community. And I shouldn't really downplay building either. I guess it's because I'm a builder, and so I kind of take that for granted. But building requires things like assessing needs, figuring out where the weak points are, creating plans, testing those plans, crowdsourcing ideas. So that's what we are supposed to be doing according to this principle of Nia. And of course, we are building and we're developing not just because we're cute, right? We're doing all of this, right? We're building and developing this community in order to restore our people to their traditional greatness. And I think, like, so for example, like this idea of restoration, it is backward looking, right? So we were traditionally great. This assumes that we're not currently great, at least in the same way that we used to be. So we're building our communities, we're developing our communities, and we're doing this because we want to take us back to a place where we were traditionally great, right? This is one of the parts of Nia that I don't like, because I think that the introduction of this idea that we are in the process of restoring ourselves, it doesn't leave a lot of room for exploring the innovative ways that we are currently great. And I know Kuumba and Imani do that, but it still would be great to have that here too, because there were some ways that our traditional greatness wasn't as great as it could have been. So those of us who critique capitalism, those of us who critique patriarchy and critique oppression, look back to some of the ways that we were traditionally great and say, yeah, that's not it. That's not a thing we intend on doing again. We should leave that past in the past. So I do think that it is important, as a part of Nia, to be discerning, right, in what it is we're restoring and what needs to simply be replaced or enhanced. So that is what I think of when I hear Nia, purpose. And as you know, my mantra on this channel is read with purpose. And this year I built and developed the Written with Purpose project, which was an opportunity to speak to 10 authors about their works this year, including my favorite author, Nalo Hopkinson. And it was really lovely. And in every single interview, I asked the author, why do you write? What are you doing this for? What's your purpose? Why did you write this book? What did you want to accomplish? And we got some amazing answers. We heard about, like, I remember C.L. Polk talking about how they came to even writing and all the different jobs that they had before they became a writer, and how they really felt called to it. And it was because people in the community said, wow, your stuff is really, really good, that they felt confident enough to actually write long form. And then they did, and created the wonderful books that we've seen now. Particularly, I love C.L. Polk's story about how they started to introduce Black characters into the Kingston cycle, because they started giving themselves permission to do so. And I think you see that develop in the books, and it's just wonderful. We also had all the CLs. We had CL Clark talk about studying violent women in school, in university, and wanting to have a character, a sword wielding, violent character. Just kind of talk about what it means to be angry, and how and what we do with that anger. And sometimes, yes, it is about expressing that anger physically, and there can be a satisfaction and a finality in that, especially when you have experienced being oppressed and being the one who has been harmed constantly. Another author that comes to mind is Ebony Dunbar, because I feel like Ebony belongs to me. But Ebony Dunbar's Stone and Steel, which I'll talk about today as an example of Nia purpose. So I think that there's like a lot of there are a lot of authors who Ujin Bacon, as well, all of them talked about their purpose. So if you haven't seen that, there's a playlist on my channel, and you can watch all of the interviews. They're each about an hour, 45 minutes to an hour and a half. You can watch them. So yeah, so what does Nia mean to you? That is my question. What does Nia purpose mean to you as a Kwanzaa principal? If you are watching right now, you're invited to go to the live chat, which will be on your platform window. And please just type in your name, or if not, your handle, where you're watching from, how you practice Nia, what it means to you. Okay. Nia is a big one for you as well. Regina Renee, you're eager to have this conversation in community. Okay, we are here. Let's do it. And Brittany, hello. What does Nia mean to you? Purpose. You're a very purposeful person, so I'm looking forward to your answers. I did not take a picture yesterday, so I still have my book stack from yesterday here. I'm going to move it over. And okay. So I'm going to pull some books that exemplify Nia for me. I thought about this before, so I have a few. Hopefully they will be within reach. So we've got one, two, three, and I'm only talking about books that I've read, and I'm only pulling books that others have read. But I will say that there are a number of books that I haven't read that I suspect will have this theme. Yes, where is that? Did I put it in the back? Is that in my back shelf? It is in my back shelf. Okay, I'm going to try and get it anyway. Okay. And oh, yes. I actually really liked this one. And that one. And am I done? Am I done? Am I done? I think I'm done for now. This is always the fun part because I end up with a ton more. Yeah, I think I'm good. Okay. Yes. All right. Okay. So, book number 1. This is it's a series by L.L. McKinney, and it is A Blade So Black and A Dream So Dark. I would say that in A Blade So Black, we have the main character, Allison. This is a reimagining of Alice in Wonderland. In A Blade So Black, she discovers who she is. And then in A Dream So Dark, there is an exploration. I mean, there's an exploration of her purpose throughout, but I feel like for me, in A Dream So Dark, we see more of that. Because this is kind of like, it's got a chosen one kind of element to it. I don't know which side I'm supposed to, yeah, opposite. Okay. So there's a chosen one element to this, but then there's a coming into yourself one here. And I really enjoyed this series. So A Blade So Black by L.L. McKinney. The first time a nightmare came, Alice nearly lost her life. Now, with magic weapons and hardcore fighting skills, she battles these monstrous creatures in the dream realm known as Wonderland. Yet even warriors have curfews. Life in real-world Atlanta isn't always so simple as Alice juggles an overprotective mom, a high-maintenance best friend, and school. Keeping the nightmares at bay is turning into a full-time job. When Alice's handsome and mysterious mentor is poisoned, she has to find the antidote by venturing deeper into Wonderland than she's ever gone before. And she'll need to use everything she's learned in both worlds to keep from losing her head, literally. So that's A Blade So Black and A Dream So Dark. I really enjoyed these books. I think that YA and middle grade books tend to have the theme of purpose, right? Because they tend to be coming of age stories where your protagonist is learning about themselves, learning about a magical power, learning about a mission, going on a hero's journey. Like that tends to be it. I will say that there is, this is a bit of a spoiler, so after I do this, the spoiler will be done. But the love interests in here are white, and I have heard criticisms that this isn't this story could have been more, but like this and like another spoiler, Legendborn, um, the to have these strong Black female characters falling for these white characters has been disappointing for some readers. So if that is super important to you in this kind of story, then you should just know that. I was okay with it for reasons I can talk about in another video, but I enjoyed it. So that is L.L. McKinney's Nightmareverse. Finished with the spoilers. Okay. The other book that I want to talk about is one of the first books that I reviewed on this channel before I knew much, when I was a wee lass of the booktube world, and that is Redwood and Wildfire by Andrea Hairston. So I hope there's a synopsis here because I will not be able to. Okay. At the turn of the 20th century, minstrel shows transform into vaudeville, which slides into moving pictures. Hunkering together in dark theaters, diverse audiences marvel at flickering images. This dreaming in public becomes common culture and part of what transforms immigrants and native born into Americans. Redwood, an African American woman, and Aiden, a Seminole Irishman, journey from Georgia to Chicago, from haunted swampland to a city of the future. They are gifted performers and hoodoo conjurers struggling to clap up the wondrous world they imagine, not just on stage and screen, but on city streets, in front parlors, in wounded hearts. The power of hoodoo is the power of the community that believes in its capacities to heal and to determine the course of today and tomorrow. Living in a system stacked against them, Redwood and Aiden's power and talent are torment and joy. Their search for a place to be who they want to be is an exhilarating, painful, magical adventure. Blues singers, filmmakers, haints, healers, and actors work their mojo for adventure, romance, and magic from Georgia to Chicago. So that is Redwood and Wildfire. And The Book of Night Women by Marlon James. The Book of Night Women is the story of Lilith, born into slavery on a Jamaican sugar plantation at the end of the 18th century. Even at her birth, the slave women around her recognize a dark power that they and she will both come to both revere and fear. The Night Women, as they call themselves, have long been plotting a slave revolt, and as Lilith comes of age, they see her as the key to their plans. But when she begins to understand her own feelings and desires and identity, Lilith starts to push at the edges of what is imaginable for the life of a slave woman and risks becoming the conspiracy's weak link. A true triumph of voice and storytelling, the Book of Night Women rings with both profound authenticity and a distinctly contemporary energy, and its characters, Lilith and the Night Women, feel instantly alive and unforgettable. And then the last book is Escaping Exodus. Sorry, the last book before I pause is Escaping Exodus by Nikki Drayden. Earth is a distant memory. Habitable extrasolar planets are still out of reach. For generations, humanity has survived by establishing colonies within enormous vacuum-breathing space beasts and mining their resources to the point of depletion. Rash and unconventional, Seska Calais should be preparing for her future role as clan leader. But her people have just culled their latest beast, and she's eager to find the cause of the violent tremors plaguing their new home. Defying social barriers, Seska teams up with her best friend, a beast worker, and ventures into restricted areas searching for answers. Instead, they discover grim truths about the price of life in the void. Then Seska unexpectedly becomes clan matriarch, responsible for thousands of lives in a harsh universe. Her claim to the throne is challenged by a rival determined to take control, her intelligent, cunning, and confident sister. Seska may not be a born leader like her sister, but her unorthodox outlook and incorruptible idealism may be what the clan needs to save itself and its world. So that's Escaping Exodus. A lot of these books are about like one person having a path and choosing the path and doing something. So, all right. So let's see what folks say. Okay, so Regina Renee, and again, if you are in the chats, please feel free to leave a comment in the live feed so I can see it, put it on screen, and we can talk together. Okay, Regina Renee, my thoughts tend to center around vocation versus career and individual versus collective purpose. Okay, I would love to hear more about that. Um, I like the idea, excuse me, morning, hoarse voice. I very much like the idea of vocation. And if I want to look up the word vocation, because it's so much broader than occupation as a concept. Um, a vocation feels more like a calling than anything else. It's a strong feeling of suitability for a particular career or occupation, but I think that's wrong. Um, I think vocation is actually, yeah, more than that. So this is a better definition. The meaning of vocation is a summons or strong inclination to a particular state or course of action. Because I actually encountered the term vocation in the Roman Catholic Church when I was a member of the Roman Catholic religion, and the church. And vocation was the word that was used to describe the people who were called to join the clergy. Um, and adherents of the faith would pray for more vocations, right? We would pray for more people to um, listen to the calling and to respond to the calling. So it was only later in my life that the word vocation was associated with your job or your profession. I think it's much more profound than that at its essence. So I definitely agree with that. And then individual versus collective purpose. Yeah. And I think that in each of these stories, there is a desire to save the community or to make the community better. And I think that's where we get that interplay between the individual and collective purpose. And in a lot of books, in a lot of fantasy books or books where you have like the one trope, you often have characters who have to decide between their own desires and the collective desire as well. Like maybe it's their desire for greatness, and they've got to humble themselves so that they can achieve the greater good. Um, so that's not an uncommon trope. Actually, there's also Samuel Delane. Oh shoot! I knew this was going to happen. I need to move my desk back because it is pulling at a thread in my outfit. We can't have that in these streets. To cover that with tape. There are two books. I haven't read as much Delaney as I would like, but I have a lot of Delaney. It's not the ballad. Is it the ballad? It's not the ballad. It's Okay, we'll get that in a second. Okay, let's see your comments. Hello. Yes, the third book. I'm looking forward to is it coming out in 2022? I thought it was coming out in 2023. Check it. I thought it was 2023. Because if it's 2022, I'll be very happy. Because I would like to read it. But yes. Greetings, Blood Honey. The word vocation is often defined as a divine call. Yes. I think that's that's definitely the way that I have encountered the meaning of the word. And just to play with that for a second, a divine calling, if you look at how Nia is described here, and let's replace vocation with divine calling and see what that does. To make our collective vocation the building and developing of our community in order to to make our collective divine calling the building and developing of our community. So like it's actually something that we're called to do. I think that's definitely an interesting take on the term. Okay. So to your comments, Regina Renee, at this time, it is my understanding that my vocation is to connect people to resources. Okay. My occupation, editor and librarian. When I think of collective purpose, I'm thinking about how I serve others. I see. Yeah. So if I take that view and look at Onyx pages, my initial impetus for creating Onyx pages was inspired by Adri from Perpetual Pages. And I saw them talk about the fifth season, and I was so taken by Adri. I was taken by um, their intelligence, their cadence, because like the way that they speak about books is very rhythmic. And also, I really loved that Adri was able to put words to things that I experienced when I read the fifth season. And also, I was able to understand more about the book through listening to them talk about it. And I felt like I wanted to start a channel because I wanted to practice talking about stories because I'm not the greatest at it. So I wanted to practice that. But I do have a talent for public speaking. And so I knew that this platform would work for me. It would definitely speak to my own talents. Um, but also, I wanted to be a part of a community and help build one. And I saw a void because there weren't a lot of booktubers. There weren't any. Like I'm the first booktuber um, that has focused on exclusively on Black speculative fiction. There are now others, um, like Chloe from Thistle and Verse, for example, that have niche channels and do not like talk about books outside of those niches. That's rare for BookTube, um, and so it over time, as I realized how rare it was for BookTube, it then became part of a collective desire to encourage people to read more of this work and encourage people to read with purpose. So sometimes it is, a movement from the individual to the collective, and it can be quite powerful. And Chloe, I know you're going to watch this later today, so shout out to you because you're great. All right, yes, 2023. Regina Renee, my gifts complement the gifts of others as we work towards intentional community. Yeah, and I think that that's a big deal. Like when you know what your gifts are, what your talents are, what your strengths are, and you can bring those out in other people, that's really powerful. So like Brittany, who's on the chat right now, Brittany is one of her gifts is manifestation, and another one of her gifts is creativity. And so she's able to render ideas into like artistic forms, like into illustrations. So she can describe like the glow of somebody's aura, and then she can draw it, and then she can like put it on a piece of paper or on a sticker so that you can have it, so that when you want to remind yourself of that glow, you can use one of her stickers and remind yourself of that glow. Like that her part of her magic is the ability to transfer something from idea into a tactile form. But then like her entrepreneurial spirit and her business acumen allows her to easily, from the outside, I'm sure it's hard for her, but allows her to easily share that with the world, so that we in a form that we can use without having to think about it as much as she does. And I think that part of working perfect, like when you work to your own purpose, um, although I think it's really important to learn new skills, but when you understand and hone your own talent and you do that in concert with everyone, then what emerges is this like, group of superheroes who are doing great things. So I'm reminded of the way that Octavia E. Butler talks about the different people who are part of the first Earthseed community in Parable of the Soul and Parable of the Talents, people sort of working together with their own skills. And I mean, this is the basis for many superhero groups, right? You've got, I'm fire, I'm whatever, cupcake, I'm this, I'm that. And so they pair up and as their strengths come together, they've got a collective purpose that they can actually fulfill. Blood honey. Let me see if I have anything like that. I want to talk. That was a great segue to Sister Mine by Nalo Hopkinson. Now adults. Okay, let me read. I'll read the back. So we'd had to be cut free from our mother's womb. She'd never have been able to push the two-headed sport that was me and Abby out the usual way. Abby and I were fused, you see, conjoined twins. But here's the real kicker. Abby had the magic, I didn't. Far as the family was concerned, Abby was one of them, though cursed as I was with the tragic flaw of mortality. Now adults, Makeda and Abby, still share their childhood home. The surgery to separate the two girls gave Abby a permanent limp, but left Makeda with what feels like an even worse deformity, no mojo. The daughters of a celestial demigod and a human woman, Makeda and Abby had an unusual childhood that made them extremely close. But ever since Abby's magical talent began to develop, the sisters have become distant. Today, Makeda has decided it's high time to move out. In a rundown warehouse space, Makeda finds exactly what she's been looking for, an opportunity to live apart from Abby and begin building her own independent life. There's even a resident band led by the charismatic and attractive building superintendent. Don't we love a sexy building superintendent? When was the last time you saw that in speculative fiction? But when her father goes missing, Makeda will have to discover her own talent and reconcile with Abby if she's going to have hope of saving him. Now, this cover is a spoiler, so I just need you to take a minute and look at this cover, because everything on this cover actually happens in the book. Everything you see is in the book. Every single thing. So that is Sister Mine by Nalo Hopkinson. Definitely a Nia book. Like, not having, I even just watched Encanto. If you grew up in a magical family and you're the only one that doesn't have magical powers, obviously you're going to be asking yourself, like, what's the meaning of life, right? Why am I here? How come I didn't get that power? Okay, so Blood Honey. On the idea of collective good question. On the idea of collective vocation, should there be a shared understanding of that calling? How could that collective understanding be fostered? That's an excellent question. And I think that it brings up umoja as well, this idea of unity. And this is a story that I tell a lot. When I was doing my master's, I completed my graduate studies in education. And my master's was focusing on decolonized education, anti-racism, anti-oppression, and intersectionality, critical race education. And I remember when I was putting my thesis together, and my thesis was actually a collection of Afrofuturist stories. I should find it. I need to reread it. She was so smart. Sorry, not my thesis. I didn't do a thesis, my major research paper, because they're different things. So I remember traveling on the subway with one of my thesis supervisors, and he said to me, I said, my goal is unity. Like at that point, I was writing about homophobia in the African descended communities, in the Black communities. And at that time in Toronto, there was a huge debate about Afrocentric schools. And the idea was, we need Afrocentric schools because Afrocentric schools will create a safe place for Black students to grow and to learn. And they need those spaces because when you feel ostracized in the classroom, you also can feel alienated from the exercise of learning. And that's a problem. So my question was, can Afrocentric schooling serve queer Black youth and queer Black parents, right? Or will these settings that hearken to a mythical traditional past, one where queer people don't exist, which we know isn't a thing, will those classrooms serve? Or will we see beautiful, shiny Black families with a man and a woman and a boy and a girl, with, canaras and fruits and doing girl things and boy things and having very binary heteronormative lives? Will that serve Black queer youth? And shouldn't we think about education for Black students intersectionally? Why wouldn't we do so? But in doing that, right, I had to ask the question, well, okay, so how do we get from here to there? I mean, the answer to my question was no, it's not going to happen. But it should happen. So how do we get that intersectional perspective? And so, yeah, I think that it's an important question, because if you think about it, Blood Honey, and I'm sure you have, we're not very good. I'm sorry, but we're not very good at sharing leadership in our communities, right? If you look at any organization or any part of the Black communities, we like a leader, right? We like one leader, whether it's a pastor, whether it's a conductor, whether it's a manager, right? There's always one person, for the most part, right? A spokesperson, a chief, a this. We don't have a lot of examples, or at least we do have a lot of examples of collectivity, but we don't lift up those models of leadership, right? And so even when we have groups, we tend to defer to one person who is supposed to do everything. And so this idea, like, you can't foster a collective understanding if you have no facilitative or decision-making technologies that will help a group decide together, right? So I guess, I mean, it's really important, right? In order to have a collective vocation, you need to have a shared understanding. And in order to have a shared understanding, you have to have a method for achieving a collective understanding. That method has to be more than the loudest person, the person with the fastest brain, the person who speaks the language well enough, the most attractive person, the lightest person, the skinniest person, the most traditionally educated person is the one who we will follow, right? It has to be something other than that. For examples of books that have explored that, we have, it's in my back shelf. So it is the collection of short stories collected by Walida Imarisha and Adrienne Marie Brown, Octavia's Brood. There are some really good stories about collective work. And also, Emergent Strategy is also an excellent resource. This is an excellent resource for collective meaning making, collective activism, and vocation. And this was written inspired by the principles emerging from Octavia Butler's work. So Emergent Strategy. And also, while we're here, there's a group of books from the Emergent Strategy world. Let's see. Okay. Since you asked, Blood Honey, these are all books. This is the next book written by Adrienne Marie Brown, Pleasure Activism, The Politics of Feeling Good. And we also have the Emergent Strategy series, We Will Not Cancel Us, and Other Dreams of Transformative Justice by Adrienne Marie Brown, Holding Change, The Way of Emergent Strategy, Facilitation and Mediation. So this is actually a book that helps facilitators foster collective understanding, Holding Change. and Undrowned, Black Feminist Lessons from Marine Mammals by Alexis Pauline Gumbs. Alexis Pauline Gumbs is so talented. Poems drop from her lips. Like, she is a griot. She's amazing. So, yes. Okay. I just saw something and then I'll come back to what you've said. Regina Renee, I am facilitating a workshop on pleasure activism this summer. Can I come? Is it online? If not, can I come in person? Is that a thing I could do? Let's see. Tell me more about it. Okay. Pat, I want it in 22 as well. I need to know how it ends. Yes. Melon and Eclectic. I'm not a writer, but I can give you a visual. Absolutely. Know your lane. Know your lane. Know your lane. I am not an illustrator. I am not an illustrator. But I am other things. Yes, Wonder Twins activate 100%. Yes. Okay. So there are 3 more books I want to talk about, and then we can end for today. But of course, please share your thoughts. So I'm just going to, we talked about this in one of the other Kwanzaa Reflect-A-Thon videos, The Best of All Possible Worlds. I think it was actually Umoja, but this is also one that I'm not going to put it in the stack because I want to put new books that we've talked about. And Unkindness of Ghosts. One of the things that Tommy talks about on Unkindness of Ghosts all the time. Sometimes when I'm being mean, because I can be mean, should be why are you being an Unkindness of Ghosts? Stop being an Unkindness of Ghosts. Overheard at the Sojourner Campbell household. Okay. Aster. I matched the book today. Aster has little to offer folks in the way of rebuttal when they call her ogre and freak. She's used to the names. She only wishes there were more truth to them. If she were truly a monster, she'd be powerful enough to tear down the walls around her until nothing remains of her world. Aster lives in the low-deck slums of the HSS Matilda, a space vessel organized much like the antebellum South. For generations, Matilda ferried the last of humanity to a mythical promised land. On its way, the ship's leaders have imposed harsh moral restrictions and deep indignities on dark-skinned sharecroppers like Aster. Embroiled in a grudge with a brutal overseer, Aster learns there may be a way to improve her lot if she's willing to sow the seeds of civil war. Dun, dun, dun. So, yes, An Unkindness of Ghosts, definitely a Nia purpose story. And then we've got a Delaney, The Ballad of Beta 2. Anthropology student Jonany was sent on a quest he didn't want to find the meaning of the Ballad of Beta 2. For the ballad was the only clue that even hinted at what had happened to the spaceship Beta 2's mission crew of galactic colonists. Jonany's search for the answer led him on a course of indescribable terror and to a miraculous understanding. So that is the Ballad of Beta 2. I would also suggest the entire Patternist series by Octavia E. Butler, which I've talked about in one of my earlier videos. But I think all of her writing deals with purpose in some way. But I have left one book of hers that is not discussed as much as it should be here, which is Fledgling. Let me read this, and then I will speak to the controversy, and then I will still ask you to read this. Shori is a mystery. Found alone in the woods, she appears to be a little black girl with traumatic amnesia and near fatal wounds. But Shori is a 53-year-old vampire with a ravenous hunger for blood, the lost child of an ancient species of near immortals who live in a dark symbiosis with humanity. Genetically modified to be able to walk in daylight, Shori now becomes the target of a vast plot to destroy her and her kind. And in the final apocalyptic battle, her survival will depend on whether all humans are bigots or all bigots are humans. Yes. One of the things that I love about this book is watching Shori figure out what happened to her and to regain some parts of her memory. So that I love about this book. The issue that people have, and this is something you should know, the issue that people have about this book is similar to the issue that people have about a lot of books that involve vampires. They are very old, but sometimes they are perpetual children in body, and she has sex. So she looks like a little girl. She is not a little girl, and she has sex. So you need to understand that that's going to happen. And if that's not a thing you want to read, that's then you make your adult choices. So those are the books. Those are the books. This is our book stack for Nia Purpose. Again, I think one of the most important. Well, they're all very important, but it's a very important one for me in my life at the moment. What is your purpose? Okay, everyone. So let's see who else is here. Tell us more about this workshop, Regina Renee. Oh, yes, you were going to say Mind of My Mind. Yeah, specifically Mind of My Mind. Out of that series, absolutely. Yeah, I agree. Hello, Didi. If you don't know, you probably everybody does. But Didi, A Brown Girl Reading, is amazing. And if you want, she's also the creatrix of Read So Lit, the book club, and also the hashtag. And if you want to read Black literary fiction and Black classics, African American classics in particular, make sure that you are following Didi. Didi's also really lovely. And I had the opportunity to meet Didi in my first year of BookTube when I was in Paris for the day. I literally, I was visiting a friend in Amsterdam, and I think it was like my second time in Europe. And I always wanted to take, like, either the train or the plane to different countries, because I thought I didn't realize how close together some of the countries in Europe actually are. And so I remember going to Paris for the day to meet Didi from Brown Girl Reading. And I remember while I was walking in this tunnel to get to the train to meet her, near the cathedral, the Notre Dame Cathedral, where we had crepes. And then we had, what did we do, Didi? We had crepes. We had creme brulee, because I was like, I literally want to like walk around this little part of Paris, go to bookstores with Didi, talk to her, and like eat as much as I possibly could. So I had to have crepes. I had to have hot chocolate. I had to have creme brulee. And then we just walked around and ate. But anyway, it was really lovely to meet Didi. So that is like one of my fondest BookTube memories. Very, very early BookTube memory as well. Anyway, I went to Paris for the day, and I spent the day with Didi, Brown Girl Reading. How you like them apples? Okay, anyway. This is a thing when you reach out into the world, reach out through the internet into the world and meet people. I have a habit of, like, if I admire somebody who I see like on the internet, I will reach out to them and I'll be like, you seem like a very interesting person. I'm an intuitive person, and so I see people really well. And so I trust the things I see. So when I see somebody who glows, I will find them and ask them if they want to be friends. So anyway, that was a lovely time, Didi. You're amazing. Yes, it was really good, and I want to do it again. It was snowing. It was very beautiful. It was such a good time. We will have that moment again. We will have that moment again. I had a moment when I met you at what was it called again? BookNet Fest. When you were standing beside me in this glorious like green um what are those dress called? Bodycon dress with your like pink purple wig. And I said hello to you, but then only after I said hello to you did I realize, oh my gosh, this is like the Melanin Eclectic who made the stickers, who I connected with last time. And I was like, oh my God, it's you, and gave me a big hug. Like, we've had a moment. We just need to have that moment with me in Paris. It was a lot of fun. We need to do it again. Yes. Yay, that's lovely. Yes, with Tomi. That would be fun. Tomi gives amazing hugs, and yes. So, yes, hugging Tomi around the world is an experience that everybody should have. Okay, everyone. Dee Dee, do you have a word on Nia, purpose, and a book that you would recommend? Because we read very, very different books. So, yes. It was lovely. It was lovely. I just have so many lovely, lovely experiences. I remember we had this conversation. It was actually about purpose. It was me, Brittany, Oshale, um, Shane, and then there was somebody else with us. And then also Bethany. We ended up all sitting at the hot tub, the outdoor hot tub, at like midnight or 1 in the morning, talking about Black books. And I was like, this is a thing that's happening. Somebody take a picture because it's happening. It's happening right now. It was really lovely. Holy cookies. I love that. That's fun. Okay, so we've got a book recommendation from the Dee Dee, A Brown Girl Reading from Scratch by Tembi Locke. So yes, let me find that. Okay, so I'm gonna find that from Scratch, Tembi Locke. A Memoir of Love, Sicily, and Finding Home. I'll just share the screen. This is a poignant and transporting cross-cultural love story set against the lush backdrop of the Sicilian countryside, where one woman discovers the healing powers of food, family, and unexpected grace in her darkest hour. And I will share the screen so you can see it. For those of you who are interested, this is the book. And then how would you say this relates to Nia, purpose? Okay, and then now you have Unbound by Tarana Burke. Unbound. Tarana Burke, My Story of Liberation and the Birth of the Me Too Movement. Yes, I should read this. You have to read that. Yeah, that's definitely a Nia book. Thank you for those. Thank you for those recommendations. Yay. Okay, everyone. So we are at the 1 hour mark. It's only double time. Don't worry. Don't worry about it. It's good. This was great. This was a good experience. This was very Habari Ghani. This is very Nia. This is very Kwanzaa Reflect-A-Thon. So we will be back tomorrow. And I am looking forward to spending more time with you. I will be updating my Instagram with the book stack from yesterday and the book stack from today. So please do make sure to check me out at Instagram. You can find me on Instagram somehow. I think my name is Onyx Pages. I don't know. I don't Instagram as much as I'd like to, and I don't fully understand Insta. So there's that. Have a fantastic day, everyone. Let's see a couple of Okay, so this is the pleasure activism workshop that Regina Renee is hosting next year in the summertime. The workshop is part of a self-care for BIPOC 5-day series. It is entitled Sacred Sex, and we will be discussing how BIPOC are both over-sexualized and yet stripped by society of the right to pleasure. Ugh. Thank you for that. So how do we sign up? Tell us in the chat. Put it in the comments. I love that. So this was your first book recommendation, because she has to learn to be alone, a parent alone with her daughter. Okay. Got that. All right. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Have a wonderful Kwanzaa. We will see you tomorrow. Okay? Bye.